The 20th of July, 1944. Just a few hours after German military officers attempted to assassinate Adolf Hitler at the Wolf's Lair, his East Prussian headquarters at Rastenburg, the Führer keeps his appointments, including a meeting with Italy's fascist leader Benito Mussolini. The plot was the culmination of efforts by several groups in the German resistance, which hoped that Hitler's violent death would signal an anti-Nazi revolt and overthrow the Nazi German government. In the days that follow, Adolf Hitler orders a massive hunt for conspirators, and their executions will continue to the last days of the war. Among the suspected conspirators is Hitler's favorite commander, popularly known as the Desert Fox, whom the Führer wants to eliminate quietly because of his status as a national hero. His name is Erwin Rommel. Johannes Erwin Eugen Rommel, one of 5 children of an artillery lieutenant, was born on the 15th of November 1891 in Württemberg, then part of the German Empire. In 1910, at the age of 18, Rommel joined the German army, and by the outbreak of the First World War, which began on the 28th of July 1914, he held a position of an infantry officer. Rommel fought primarily in France and Italy. He successfully employed the tactics of penetrating enemy lines with heavy covering fire, coupled with rapid advances, as well as moving forward rapidly to a flanking position to arrive at the rear of hostile positions, to achieve tactical surprise. After striking successes at the Battle of Caporetto and in the capture of the Italian town of Longarone, Rommel was promoted to the rank of captain in January 1918. On the 11th of November of the same year, the First World War ended. In 1919, Erwin Rommel participated in the suppression of uprisings by revolutionary communists in the German cities of Lindau and Schwäbisch Gmünd. In doing so, he became renowned for avoiding bloodshed and for relying on negotiation to resolve conflict. From 1929 through 1933, Rommel served as an instructor at the Dresden Infantry School. During this time, in April 1932, he was promoted to major. At this time, Rommel was already a married man with 2 children. In 1916, he had married Lucia Mollin, with whom he had a son, Manfred, born in 1928. However, he also had an illegitimate daughter, Gertrud, born in December 1913. Her mother, Walburga Stemmer, was the daughter of a seamstress and had an affair with Rommel in 1913. However, her working-class background made her unsuitable as an officer's wife, and Rommel abandoned Walburga after his family put pressure on him to leave her. Walburga Stemmer died suddenly in 1928, when Rommel's wife Lucia was pregnant with the couple's son Manfred. Rommel and Lucia helped to look after the 15-year-old Gertrud, who remained a member of the household until Rommel's death. On the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. In October 1933, Rommel was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel and given his next command in Goslar. There, he first met Adolf Hitler, who inspected his troops on the 30th of September 1934. In September 1935, Rommel was moved to the War Academy in Potsdam as an instructor, serving for the next 3 years. His book, named The Infantry Attacks, a description of his wartime experiences along with his analysis, was published in 1937 and became a bestseller. One of many who owned a copy was Adolf Hitler. Impressed with Rommel's excellent reputation as an instructor, Hitler assigned him in 1937 as the War Ministry liaison officer to the Hitler Youth, tasked with their military training. The Hitler Youth was the Nazi-organized youth movement. Erwin Rommel clashed with the Hitler Youth leader Baldur von Schirach not only over the training that the boys should receive, but also twice proposed a plan that would have effectively subordinated Hitler Youth to the army, removing it from the Nazi Party control. That went against Schirach's express wishes, who appealed directly to Hitler. Consequently, Rommel was quietly removed from the project in 1938. However, in October the same year, Hitler requested that Erwin Rommel command his personal escort battalion, which accompanied the Führer whenever he traveled outside of Germany. During the first 6 years of Hitler's dictatorship, from 1933 until the outbreak of war in 1939, Jews felt the effects of more than 400 decrees and regulations that restricted all aspects of their public and private lives. The regulations gradually but systematically took away their rights and property, transforming them from citizens to outcasts. Rommel's son, Manfred Rommel, stated that his father would look the other way when faced with anti-Jewish violence on the streets. After the Röhm Purge, which was the murder of the leadership of the SA in 1934, Rommel mistakenly believed that the worst was over, although restrictions on Jewish businesses were still being imposed, and agitation against their community continued. Though Rommel knew about and privately disagreed with the government's anti-Semitism, he did not actively campaign on behalf of the Jews. On the 1st of September 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, which marked the beginning of the Second World War. Throughout the invasion, the then Major General Rommel continued to command Hitler's escort battalion. This was an important post, for Hitler took a very personal interest in the campaign, often traveling close to the front during this time. Rommel belonged to Hitler's favored commanders and attended the Führer's daily war briefings and accompanied him everywhere. Following the invasion of Poland, Rommel began lobbying for command of one of Germany's panzer or tank divisions, of which there were only 10. Ahead of more senior officers, Rommel received from Hitler the promotion to general, as well as obtaining the command he aspired to. Rommel liked Hitler and appreciated the preferential treatment he received from the Führer, noting that Hitler was extraordinarily friendly to him. In 1940, General Rommel commanded the 7th Panzer Division during the invasion of France, where he demonstrated his skill in the new tactic of blitzkrieg, or lightning war. The speed and surprise that his 7th Panzer Division was consistently able to achieve rose to the point at which both the enemy and the German Army High Command at times lost track of its whereabouts. This earned Rommel's 7th Panzer Division the nickname Ghost Division. During the French campaign, however, Rommel demonstrated a tendency towards self-promotion and a lack of logistical expertise. These two characteristics would follow him throughout his career. After the armistice with the French was signed on the 22nd of June, Rommel's 7th Panzer Division was placed in reserve in order to re-equip and prepare for the Operation Sea Lion, which was the planned invasion of Britain. This invasion, however, was later cancelled, as Germany was not able to acquire the air superiority it needed for a successful outcome, while the German Navy was massively outnumbered by the Royal English Navy. In February 1941, Rommel took command of German forces in North Africa. There, he earned the nickname the Desert Fox. Rommel's greatest triumph in battle was the Battle of Gazala, fought around the port of Tobruk in Libya from the 26th of May to the 20th of June, 1942. It was also considered the most convincing defeat of British forces during all the desert campaigns of World War II. It was vital for the Allies' defense of Egypt and the Suez Canal to hold the town with its harbor, as this forced the enemy to bring most of their supplies overland from the port of Tripoli, across 1,500 kilometers of desert, as well as diverting troops from their advance. Through the capture of Tobruk, the Axis obtained a good sum of British supplies, and the victory led to the promotion of Erwin Rommel to the rank of Field Marshal. Erwin Rommel became the youngest German to ever achieve the rank. A wily and aggressive commander, Rommel achieved stunning victories, but he was hobbled by his shortcomings in logistics and by the increasing power of Allied troops. The last Rommel offensive in North Africa was on the 6th of March 1943, when he attacked the British 8th Army at the Battle of Medellin. After losing 52 tanks, Rommel called off the assault, and on the 9th of March he returned to Germany to oversee defenses in Normandy. He was given a staff that befitted an army group commander, and powers to travel, examine, and make suggestions on how to improve the defenses. Hitler, who was having a disagreement with him over military matters, intended to use Rommel as a psychological trump card. Upon arriving in northern France, Rommel was dismayed by the lack of completed works, and he and his staff set out to improve the fortifications along the Atlantic Wall with great energy and engineering skill. In April 1944, Rommel promised Hitler that the preparations would be complete by the 1st of May, a promise he failed to deliver. By the time of the Allied invasion, on the 6th of June 1944, the preparations were far from finished. At this time, many German military officers shared two basic convictions: that Germany was being led to disaster, and that Hitler's removal from power was necessary. Thus, on the 20th of July 1944, Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg placed one of 2 bombs in a briefcase under the table in Hitler's briefing room in the Wolf's Lair. However, he was unable to arm the second bomb in time, and after Stauffenberg left the room, the briefcase was coincidentally moved under the heavy support of the table leg. It detonated, but failed to kill Hitler. This was not, however, immediately known to the conspirators. An ally at Hitler's headquarters cut off all communication as Stauffenberg returned to Berlin to coordinate the implementation of the plan, codenamed Operation Valkyrie. At first, the plan seemed to go smoothly, as the reserve army began to take action, but delays, confusion, and poor communication robbed the coup of its initiative. Eventually, the fact of Hitler's survival was broadcasted, and the plot quickly unraveled. In the days that followed, Hitler ordered a massive hunt for conspirators, which continued for months. One of the founding elements of the myth of Rommel as an honorable opponent comes from his ambiguous participation in the 20th of July 1944 plot to assassinate Hitler. Rommel had recognized that the war was lost and confronted Hitler on the topic. However, it appears that his friends and historians alike attempted to portray Rommel's involvement as greater and more committed than it actually was. Rommel had some connections to the plotters, but was not involved in detailed planning. Indeed, it appears Rommel was, at the least, opposed to killing Hitler, even if he supported removing him from power. Based on the evidence, Rommel was sympathetic, but was neither a central player nor willing to take decisive action in support of the conspiracy. However, the search for conspirators implicated him, and on the 14th of October 1944, 2 generals from Hitler's headquarters, Wilhelm Burgdorf and Ernst Meisel, visited Rommel at his home and informed the field marshal of the charges against him. Rommel was given a choice between suicide, in return for assurances that his reputation would remain intact and that his family would not be persecuted following his death, or facing a trial that would result in his disgrace and execution. Rommel chose to commit suicide rather than face prosecution. On the 14th of October 1944, when he took a cyanide pill, he was 52 years old. However, the Nazi German regime lied to the public about Rommel's death, and the Nazi press told the German public that Rommel had died as a complication of the injuries received in France when British bombers strafed his staff car shortly before the failed plot. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel was given a state funeral, and Hitler ordered an official day of mourning to commemorate the general. However, the funeral was held in Ulm instead of Berlin, as had been requested by Rommel. Until today, there is an ongoing debate about the extent to which Erwin Rommel supported Nazism and the Holocaust. Some have argued he was deeply complicit. Others have suggested that, while he supported the Nazis, he did so begrudgingly, or out of political naivete. Addressing this dilemma can be complex. One argument is that many generals may not have been convinced Nazis, but recognized common goals that they willingly supported. Rommel, too, fell into this category. Yet the extent of Rommel's anti-Semitism or racism is more difficult to discover. It appears most likely that he chose to overlook the more extreme elements of Nazi policy. It is true that he flatly refused to carry out several criminal orders issued by his superiors, such as the execution of black soldiers and free French fighters, but this does not mean that he was ignorant of anti-Jewish policy and the final solution. Through his access to high-ranking Nazi officials, he would have had access to inside information. Even more problematic was his relationship to a proposed Einsatzgruppe in Egypt. This unit was to be tasked with murdering the sizable Jewish population of North Africa and the British Mandate of Palestine, and to be attached directly to Rommel's Afrika Korps. Its commander, Walter Rauff, had helped design the gas van. Rauff met with Rommel's staff in 1942 to prepare for the arrival of the units. No evidence exists to record Rommel's position on the proposed measure, but he was certainly aware that planning was taking place. While the larger Einsatzgruppen were never deployed, smaller detachments did murder Jews in North Africa. Erwin Rommel was renowned as an innovator of armored tactics, particularly as commander of the Afrika Korps in North Africa. There is a myth, or legend, which depicts Rommel as a chivalrous and noble military opponent who was not driven by political ideology. However, Even today, one of the most widely debated questions about Rommel remains the extent to which he supported Nazism, and by extension, the Holocaust, which claimed the lives of 6 million European Jews. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.